Hello my dear students, welcome in this channel Patel Science Academy and in the lecture number 6 from the chapter Reproduction in Lower and Higher Animals. Dear students, in this lecture number 6 I'll teach you about the fertilization. As you know, this is Shazza sir and this is my channel Patel Science Academy. Dear students, in this lecture the very first topic that you should be familiar with is natural fertilization. So for the natural fertilization you have to be familiar with the female reproductive system present in the body of the female. So in this lecture I'll teach you about female reproductive system in short. As you know, female reproductive system and male reproductive system I have explained you in my previous lectures, in my special lecture on these two topics. So dear students, let's have a short review on this female reproductive system. As you know, this is female reproductive system diagrammatically, and these are two ovaries present in the female body. These two ovaries are linked to this fallopian tube, this tube from this side and this tube from this right side, and this fallopian tube opens into this space, and this space is called uterus. And this uterus, it is having its lining and wall, endometrium wall, and it opens into a narrow passage. This is called cervix, and cervix opens into the vagina. So as you know, this is in short about the female reproductive system. Now in this female reproductive system, fertilization, whatever the fertilization is, I'll explain you here. Fertilization, it refers to the fusion of egg. It refers to the fusion of egg with the sperm. So in the fertilization, the fusion in between the egg and the sperm takes place. Usually it takes place in the upper third part of the fallopian tube. As you know, this is fallopian tube, and in this upper third part the process of fertilization takes place. Fertilization means, one more time I'm explaining you, fertilization means a fusion of two gametes, that is male gamete sperm with the female gamete egg or ovum. This is simply a fertilization. You can see diagrammatically here in this diagram. This is sperm, this is ovum. Dear student, this is the male gamete sperm and this is female gamete ovum. So fertilization means the fusion of this sperm with this ovum. So I hope you have understood about this fertilization. In short, fertilization means simply the fusion of male gamete sperm with the female gamete ovum. Dear students, in the next slide about fertilization, once a month a woman releases an egg during the process of the ovulation, which is the part of the menstrual cycle. So as you know, there is menstrual cycle in the female body present every month, and about on an average 28 days required for this month. And during this 28 days there are 4 phases, and by that phases the process of ovulation takes place at the day number 14. So ovulation means the process of formation of the process of release of ovum, that is female gamete, which is also called as egg, from the Graafian follicle. And in this lecture I'll explain you and I'll about that, and I'll show you the original photograph of all that Graafian follicle, ovary and egg. So this is about that fertilization. Then the next point includes about the ovulation, the process of ovulation. Process of ovulation means, as I told you, it triggers the release of two hormones. There is a release of two hormones by the pituitary gland, and this is the gland of endocrine gland or hormonal system, and usually it occurs at the 14 number days, as I told you, during the process of menstrual cycle, which lies for the 28 days on an average. So ovulation is nothing but the process of release of ovum or release of egg from the ovary in the female body. This is about the next part. The next part, in the female reproductive system, in the during the fertilization in the human body, the fertile phase, or the timing during which a woman can become a pregnant, occurs during the few days near the ovulation. So as you know, this ovulation process is most important process, and women can get pregnancy uh, during the few days near the ovulation, because during the ovulation the process of release of egg or ovum takes place, and if egg or ovum is releasing from the ovary, so definitely it will be fertilized, or it will be fused with the male gamete during the copulation or during the intercourse. So this is about that process. Now we'll see the original photograph of this female ovary. So dear students, you can see this is female original ovary. One more time, in this diagram too, in this diagram too, and in this diagram too, you can see this is female ovary. And in this female ovary, you can see this portion is the actual ovary, and this dark color photo or dark color pic is the Graafian follicle, you can see here. And this dark color part, which is called the Graafian follicle or complete follicle, it releases this egg. You can see here this egg, this egg, this is that egg which is released by the process of ovulation from this Graafian follicle in the ovary. So it takes place at the 14 number day during the process of the ovulation. So I hope, dear students, you have understood about this fertilization and about the release of ovum from the body. Now we'll see the next part. Next part, uh, it includes this female reproductive system, and its main very important part, and it is always the structure of ovary. As you know, in this ovary, these are the small cell, and these small cells are always responsible. These small cells, it is called primordial follicle, and it converts into primary follicle, you can see here. And this primary follicle then converts into secondary follicle, and secondary follicle, it get matured with the vascular follicles, and when it is completed, we call it Graafian follicle. And that Graafian follicle means the follicle which is round in shape, and it has complete ovum or female egg, which is ready for the process of ovulation. So process of ovulation takes place by rupturing the follicles, you can see here. This is the process of ovulation. Egg is coming from this Graafian follicle outside the ovary, and this process is called ovulation. As I told you, it takes place at the 14 number day. Then what happens with this ovulation? After this ovulation, the process of fertilization, I'll explain you in the next slide. Then about the next stage of next to the ovulation, what happens with this Graafian follicle? Dear students, this Graafian follicle is now empty, and this empty Graafian follicle, with the release of the different hormones, it converts into this structure in which there is no egg. So this structure is called corpus luteum, mature corpus luteum, and finally it get degenerate, and we call it corpus albicans. So likewise, these are the series of changes that takes place during the process of the menstrual cycle, and it is present in the female body. And these are the different changes that takes place during the menstrual cycle, or MC. And in the main purpose of this cycle is to prepare and release this ovum or egg, which is having half number of chromosomes. So this is about this female ovary, structure of ovary. Now we'll see about the fertilization. For the fertilization, as you know, dear students, this is male gamete, it is called sperm. And in this sperm, dear students, in this sperm there are about four part. This part is called head. This part is called middle part. This part is called its tail, and this is the last portion of the tail, that is called end piece. So sperm is a male gamete having the half number of chromosome. It is prepared in the body of the male by the male reproductive system, and it has to be uh, released from the male body by the male reproductive system, and it enters into the female body in the uterus. And before I explain about the female reproductive system, about the fertilization, let me explain you about this sperm. So dear students, this is this is sperm, and in this sperm this is head, and this head, it shows a layer you can see here, and that layer is called acrosome, and it is used during the fertilization to rupture the wall of the Graafian follicle. As well as the second part in the head, it is nucleus you can see here, and this is about the head. In the middle piece you can see there are two centrioles. These centrioles are there, and in this centrioles you can see there are different mitochondria which provides the energy to this sperm, and there is a terminal disc too. Thereafter, the next part is tail, and this tail is used to travel from the male body into the female body. Thereafter, the next part is end piece, and this is the supportive portion of this sperm. So dear students, this is about that sperm, and this sperm, it fertilizes the egg. Now we'll see the next part. Next part is the female reproductive egg, and this egg is like what its structure is like this. So dear student, you can see this is the female egg, also known as female gamete or ovum. And what is the structure? There are different layers of this layers present on this egg. So you can see we'll go from the outside to inside. So you can see this is the layer, follicle cells, follicile cells of the corona radiata. So you can see here this layer is called corona radiata, and uh, beneath that layer there is one more layer that is called vitelline membrane. You can see here this layer is called vitelline membrane, and thereafter there is one more layer. That layer is, you can see this is that layer, it is called zona pellucida. So we have seen about this layer, about this layer, and about this layer. So outermost layer is called the corona radiata layer. Beneath to that is called a vitelline membrane. Beneath to that is called zona pellucida, and inside this structure there is cytoplasm. You can see by the orange color, and inner to inside what we say cytoplasm, there is nucleus. You can see this nucleus is there. So in the structure of an ovum or egg or female gamete, there are three layers: corona radiata layer, vitelline membrane layer, and the zona pellucida. And inside to it there is a presence of a colorless liquid that is called cytoplasm, and inside it there is a nucleus. So dear students, this nucleus is having half number of chromosome, that is 23. As you know, this is present in the female body, that's why it is called female gamete or egg or ovum. And about male gamete I explained you before it. I have explained you about that male gamete, and as you know, this that is sperm. So sperm means the male gamete having 20 number of sperm is the male gamete having 23 number of chromosome, which is called haploid cell, indicated by single N. And ovum is the female gamete. It is also having 23 number of chromosome, and it is also indicated by the single N because it is also haploid. So fusion in between this male gamete, that is sperm, and the ovum by the 23 chromosome from the male side and 23 chromosome from the female side. So likewise the fusion in between these two structure, in between these two gametes from the male and female sides. so to produce the cell with the 46 number of the chromosome. This process is called fertilization, and as you know, this is the topic of our 6 number lecture. So dear students, I hope you are understanding about this topic. And let's see the next point. The following intercourse during this fertile phase, millions of sperm travels from the vagina to the uterus and into the fallopian tube. So this sperm travels in the millions of number from the body of the male during the sexual intercourse into the body of the female to fertilize these eggs, to get mixed with this egg to produce the diploid cell. And first it goes into the vagina. Through the vagina it enters into the uterus, and from the uterus it goes into the fallopian tube, as I explained you in the previous slides about the female reproductive system. So dear students, the fusion in between these two male and female gamete, that is sperm and the ovum, that is called the process of fertilization. I hope you have understood about this fertilization. Then the several thousand sperms reach the eggs, but only one fertilize the egg. So this is very amazing thing about the number of the sperms. Millions sperms travels into the uh, female body, but only one sperm fertilizes the egg, and rest of the sperms get degenerates from the body, or it is released from the body. When the sperm fuses with the egg, it initiates a series of chemical changes that prevents the any other sperm from entering into the body of the female egg to get fertilized. So this is about this two structure, sperm and ovum. Now we'll see originally the microscopic diagram uh, of that cell which is produced by the process of the fertilization. So dear students, as early as 12 hours after fertilization, as you know, fertilization means the fusion in between the male gamete sperm with the female gamete ovum. After the fertilization, after the process of fertilization, after about 12 hours after fertilization, you can see the two bundles of the genetic materials. You can see this is bundle number 1, this is bundle number 2. Two bundles of the genetic materials, that is two pronuclei, one from each parent. They fuses each other, and you can see these two bundles here. This takes place after the 12 hours of the fertilization in that cell, and by 18 to 20 hours after the fertilization, these pronuclei, you can see here, these two pronuclei fuses, and what starts out as two cells becomes one, and that is called zygote. So you can see during after the 12 hours of after fertilization, these two pronuclei, each parents from the male and female, that is from the sperm and the egg, uh, they are seen. And after 18 to 20 years, what happens, these two pronuclei fuses with each other and become one nuclei, and we call that cell as a zygote. So this zygote is the product of fertilization.